What's up, 910? We're so bummed we can't be with you in person this weekend, but again, we want to do everything we can to bring church to you. So on our website, fuel910.com, there's a little link that says Church at Home, and we'll always be posting our 910s in the morning, our weekend messages, fireside chats, things like that there. And of course, if you follow us on Instagram, our IGTV, anything on our posts, follow along. But right now we're going to dive into some worship with Michaela. So wherever you are, I know this can be kind of a funny thing to be watching a video of worship, but I really want to challenge you. Would this be a moment where you can kind of maybe even push away the phone or the computer and just spend some time actually worshiping God through music? We love you guys a lot. Check it out.
Surrounds me when my thoughts wage war. When day beats trouble, where your voice will roar. Come storm or battle, God, I know your peace will lead me there. When fear comes knocking, there you'll be my God. When night schemes terror, there your voice will roar. Come death or shadow, God, I know your light will meet me there. Oh, be still and still my heart. Oh, for I know that you are God, and you heard my prayer. So I'm laying down all my religion. I'm laying down. I want to know you, Lord. I'm laying down all my religion. I'm laying down. I want to know you, Lord. I used to think that I could box you in, but I'm laying down. I want to know you, Lord. I used to think that I could box you in, but I'm laying down. I want to know you, Lord. Told to be ashamed. Lord, I've been told I don't measure up. Lord, I've been told I'm not good enough, but you're here with me. Oh, you reach out, God, I reach out and you find me in the dust. You say no amount, you say no amount of untruths can separate us. I will rejoice, I will rejoice in the simple gospel. I will rejoice in you, Lord. I will rejoice in the simple gospel. I will rejoice in you, Lord. Rejoice in your goodness, Father. And I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God.
Hey, happy weekend, 910, whether it's Saturday night or Sunday morning. We're stoked to come to you, and wherever you find yourself, whether it's in your living room or hanging out with one or two friends, we just want to do church in a different format, and so we're excited to come to you. We're in Colossians chapter 3 as we take another week in our walk series. And right now, a part of what I've been doing with kind of the coronavirus stuff is my wife and I at home, there's all these different things that we now have time for that we didn't have time for before. And one of those was we were cleaning out our closet and quite literally kind of going through some old shirts and old hats and different things like that. And one of the things I noticed really quickly was how many Fuel 910 or Hume Lake things I own, right? Like currently, literally Fuel shirt, Hume hat. And it's kind of a funny, it shows where the last couple of years in my life have been and what I wear and the shirts that I often choose are the shirts in the places that I'm working, in the places that have worked that have apparel that go along with them. And when I was working up at Hume Lake Christian Camps, whether it was on stage or running a game or teaching, we always had to have a piece of Hume apparel on. And so it was either a hat or a shirt or something like that. And then, now with Fuel 910, the shirts that we make for camps or whatever it may be, us as a staff, we enjoy wearing what we put out. And so, even today, I didn't know coming in here that filming I would be wearing a Hume hat and a Fuel 910 shirt. And yet I look down and go, even right now, Fuel shirt, Hume hat. And so much of what this says is kind of what's going on in my life. And I love the analogy that Paul uses in Colossians chapter 3 when he says, clothe yourself with. Right? We've been in this series for a handful of weeks now, and it starts out in the beginning of chapter 3 that since then you've been raised with Christ, right? There's this marker on the Christian's life of Jesus died and he was resurrected. We don't follow a dead Jesus. We follow this alive Jesus. And since now we have this new life, we've been born again, which we tackled a couple weeks ago. And since we have this new life with him, our life must look different. But it's not just a one-time thing with future ramifications, right? It's not just prayer, Jesus, I accept you into my heart, and now one day I get to go to heaven. That it has to change the day in and day out of the way that we live our lives now. And this challenge from Paul to the church of Colossae is that we would set our minds and we would set our hearts on things that are above, not on earthly things. And he knows this battle that we're going to face on a daily basis to go, man, there's going to be the things that I have to put to death, and there's going to be the things that I have to walk in. And I love this analogy that we see here in verse 12 where it says, therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, patience, bear with one another, forgive one another, walk in gratitude. Right? And all series long, we've been talking about this word walk. Right? Galatians chapter 5 puts it this way, walk by the Spirit and you won't give in to the desires of the flesh. Right? There are these two opposing forces in your life that say, what I naturally want to do, how I naturally respond, typically it's not compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, patience. Right? The things that I naturally do, the ways that I naturally respond, the ways that kind of the shirt and hat that I put on, Austin, when I wake up, they aren't those things. And so there's this crystal clear progression from Paul going, as you identify your life with an alive Jesus, as you walk with him. Remember, that word walk is just your regular pattern of life. It's not a past decision with future ramifications, with a future destination. No, it's right here, right now. What I set my mind, what I set my heart on things that are above, not on the things that I find right in front of me that are convenient. Because the ways that I respond conveniently, it's not compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, patience. It's not these things. And he says the regular pattern of life, if we make that walk by the Spirit, which looks like spending time in God's Word, which looks like spending time worshiping and being aware of God, whether that's through music, time in prayer. You know, we've been walking this week through this 9:10 in the morning, challenging you to pray, going, how do we spend more time with the person who loves us the most? When we're walking by the Spirit, we will naturally not give in to the desires of the flesh. In the very next verse in Galatians 5, it says, the desires of the flesh are against the desires of the Spirit. The desires of the Spirit are against the desires of the flesh, and they keep you from doing the things that you want to do. And so here's my challenge for you, 910. As you find yourself at home this week, right? No school. We don't have 9:10 on Wednesday night. We don't have 9:10 on Saturday and Sunday. Maybe your parents are even saying, man, like we would feel more comfortable if you're not hanging out in groups of people, which, right? Our government right now is going, no groups bigger than 10. So rightfully so, your parents looking out for you are going, we want what's best for you. And we as a church are responding, going, we want what's best for you. We want you to stay healthy. We want to look out for, our community, for our city, for our nation. And in the midst of this, I find myself having a lot of time. And I find myself having a lot of idle time. And maybe the phrase, I'm bored, has been said more times in the last week than in weeks past. Right? And with all of this time, right, the challenge for us is to actually walk this out. That sometimes it's really great in theory to go when we're at church and we're hanging out with our friends and we're in our life groups and we're doing all this, we might be able to talk about it, and then you find yourself at home with your siblings, with your parents, and for some of you, that's really hard to be home. And even with the best of families, you might still have like a really hard rub with a sibling or a really hard rub with a mom or with a dad and just going like, this is frustrating and this is challenging, and my natural response here is not patience, kindness, humility. My natural response is kind of showing in my idle time, and as I have more time and as I'm bored, maybe some of those temptations are being pulled back up, and whether it's to be grumpy or to look at pornography or the things that you feel like you've taken and you've gotten them out of your life with the help of mentors and life group and church. So maybe some of those are hitting you again, and you're finding yourself with a challenge from Paul going, clothe yourself today with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. And I think the reason he says clothe yourself is, as I walk around, if I'm wearing a Fuel 910 shirt, or as I'm walking around and I'm wearing a Hume Lake hat, I've had so many interactions with people where they're like, oh, no way. Like, you went to Hume? And it's like, yeah, how'd you know that? And they're like, oh, the hat. It's like, oh, yeah. Like, yeah, I worked up there. I actually grew up going up there when I was a kid. My dad was a speaker. And we get into a conversation about something, a destination that we've both been or we both love. With Fuel 910, I run into people and they're like, oh, that's North Coast Church. Yeah. Oh, which campus are you on? And we can have this conversation based on what I'm wearing. And I wonder this week, 9:10, what would it look like for us to respond to our siblings, to our parents, to maybe some of our friends, to maybe some of our neighbors in our neighborhood that we find ourselves interacting with more than we ever have? What if we clothed ourselves here with kindness, with compassion, with humility, with forgiveness, and all of these things were our markers? Then when people went, wait, you're a Christian, right? It's like, well, yeah, how'd you know that? Well, I could tell by your clothing. I could tell by what you're wearing. I could tell by the way that you interact with one another, the way that your patience with your sibling, your kindness, your humility, your gentleness. And I wonder if this week we don't just know it up here and read it down here, but we actually walk it out. It's our regular pattern of life that's changing the way that we interact. And I think just lastly, as we close here, man, I remember so often growing up praying for patience, or praying for kindness, or praying for humility and going, God, would you make me humble? Would you make me patient? Would you make me kind? And I think more often than not, God gives us opportunities to be patient more than he just grants us patience. He gives us opportunities to exercise humility and kindness and compassion more than he just grants it to us. And so this week, as you find yourself maybe in a frustrating or boring situation, or you're getting in an argument with mom or with dad or with siblings, would we not view that as just another hardship of being at home, but maybe that's an opportunity, a gift from God going, hey, here's an opportunity and a chance for you to exercise patience. What does that look like for you to live that out this week? And so challenging for me in the midst of having more time and being home on the weekends and spending time with people that I don't normally interact with as much as I'm interacting with them, going, God, would this not just be something that I know up here, but would this week, this be something that I get to walk out? It's this regular pattern of life where I clothe myself with the things of the Spirit and not just what comes naturally to me by the flesh. Hey, we love you guys a lot. We'll catch you at 9:10 in the morning tomorrow, Monday, Tuesday. Check it out on IGTV. Love you guys.